Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Super English Talks. I am so happy that you are here with me today. Out of all the things you could be doing right now, and out of all the podcasts you could be listening to, you chose to spend your time here. That means so much to me. I know your time is valuable, and I promise to make this session worth it. My goal is always the same: to make English learning simple, clear, and helpful, not just for your English skills, but also for your life. Maybe right now you're sitting on the train, maybe you are jogging in the park, maybe you are relaxing on your couch, or maybe you are cooking something delicious. Wherever you are, thank you for pressing play. Your support inspires me to keep creating episodes that can help you grow and improve every single day. My name is Jara, and this podcast is not only about learning English grammar or vocabulary. It's about more than that. This is a safe space where we learn life skills together. Skills that help you become stronger, happier, and more confident in yourself. While you practice English listening and speaking step by step, we also talk about ideas that can change the way you see the world and the way you see yourself. Now, today's topic is one that is very close to my heart. I feel truly passionate about it. We're going to talk about something special: how to train your brain to think differently. Let me start with a question for you. Have you ever wished you could change the way you think? Maybe you sometimes get stuck in negative thoughts, thinking about mistakes again and again. Maybe you feel trapped in a daily routine, going to a job that feels safe but not exciting, living a life that feels predictable but not inspiring. Or maybe you just want to feel more confident, more creative, and more positive in your everyday life. If this sounds familiar to you, then this episode is for you. Here's the amazing truth: your brain is not fixed. It is not frozen in one way of thinking forever. Your brain is designed to learn, to grow, and to change. This means you can improve not only your English, but also your habits, your emotions, your decisions, and even the way you dream about the future. The way you think is the foundation of everything. It shapes the conversations you have with yourself, how you treat other people, how you deal with challenges, and how you feel from the moment you wake up. If you keep thinking the same way, you will keep getting the same results. Life will stay the same. But if you begin to explore new ways of thinking, ways that are more positive, more open, and more creative, then your world will begin to change. Your confidence will grow, new opportunities will appear, and your happiness will become deeper and stronger. So, in today's episode, we're going to learn step by step how to train your brain to think in new ways. Don't worry, I will use simple and clear English so you can understand easily and maybe even practice speaking with me as you listen. By the end of this session, you will have easy, practical tools that you can start using right away. Tools that can help you reshape your thoughts and, as a result, reshape your life. So, let's begin. First, we need to understand: what does it actually mean to think differently? You may have heard this phrase before in books or motivational videos. But today, we're going to slow down and break it into small, simple steps. That way, you can not only understand it, but you can also use it in your own life, all while practicing your English. Are you ready? Let's dive in together. Thinking differently. What does it mean? Thinking differently means making a conscious choice to change the usual, automatic way we process information and see the world. Most of the time, we follow the same mental roads again and again, often without realizing it. For example, we have the same reaction when we are stuck in traffic. We tell ourselves the same stories about what we can or cannot do. We expect the same results when we try something new. This is what happens when we think in fixed patterns. But when we learn to think differently, something changes. We begin to look at situations from a fresh angle. We ask new questions. We search for new answers. We open the door to learning, to growth, and to transformation. A simple example, cooking a burned meal. Let's use an easy, everyday example. Imagine you are trying a new recipe. You are excited to make it, but then you accidentally burn the food. What is your first automatic thought? For many people, it might sound like this. I'm such a terrible cook. I can't do anything right. I always mess things up. These are what we call limiting thoughts. They make you feel small, weak, and stuck. They close the door to future attempts. If you believe these thoughts, you may not want to try cooking again. But what if you pause for a moment and choose to think differently? What if you say to yourself, okay, that didn't work. Now I know what not to do next time. Every great chef has burned food before. This is part of the learning process. It's okay. I'm trying something new, and that's what matters most. Do you see the difference? These are empowering thoughts. They do not ignore the fact that the food is burned, but they completely change how you feel about the mistake. Instead of feeling hopeless, you feel motivated. Instead of closing the door, you open a new one. This is what thinking differently looks like. It is a small shift in perspective, but when practiced again and again, it can change how you feel, how you act, and even how you live. 2 mindsets, fixed versus growth. To understand this better, let's talk about 2 powerful ways of thinking. These are called mindsets. The first is called a fixed mindset. Someone with a fixed mindset believes that their qualities, like intelligence or talent, are fixed forever. They think, I was born this way. I'm just not good at math. I'll never be able to learn another language. That's just who I am. I can't change. When people with a fixed mindset face a challenge, they often give up quickly. Why? Because they see struggle as proof that they are not capable. They are afraid of failure because they think failure defines who they are. Now, the second way of thinking is called a growth mindset. A person with a growth mindset believes that abilities can be developed with practice, effort, and time. They think, I can get better if I keep practicing. I can learn this skill step by step. This is difficult, but it's a chance to grow stronger. People with a growth mindset do not see mistakes as failures. They see them as lessons. They understand that effort is not weakness. Effort is the path to strength. They keep moving forward, even when life feels hard. Thinking differently equals moving to a growth mindset. At its heart, thinking differently is about moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. It's about choosing new, positive, and open ways of looking at challenges. Let's make this clearer with a few everyday examples. Instead of thinking, I'll never speak English fluently, you can think, every time I practice, I'm getting closer. Instead of thinking, I failed this test, so I'm not smart, you can think, this test showed me what I need to study more. Next time, I'll do better. Instead of thinking, I'm too old to start something new, you can think, it's never too late to learn. I can grow at any age. Each of these examples shows how a small shift in thinking can change the way you feel and the actions you take. Thinking differently in real life. Now, let's connect this idea directly to your goal of learning English. Imagine you want to speak English fluently. If you have a fixed mindset, you might say to yourself, I'll never sound like a native speaker. My accent is too strong. I'll never be good enough. What happens when you think this way? This thought becomes a wall in your mind. It tells your brain, stop trying. It's useless. And your brain listens. You avoid speaking. You avoid practicing. And little by little, your progress slows down or even stops completely. But now, let's imagine you use a growth mindset instead. You say to yourself, my accent is part of my story, but I can improve my pronunciation if I practice every day. I'm not perfect yet, but I am getting better step by step. What happens now? This thought gives your brain power. It tells your brain, keep going, you can grow. Suddenly, you start looking for more opportunities to practice. You listen more carefully. You speak more often. And slowly you improve. That is thinking differently. And it is one of the most powerful tools any English learner, including you, can have. Another example, trying something new. Let's take another everyday example. Imagine your colleague invites you to join a local hiking club. If you have a fixed mindset, your automatic thought might be, no, I'm not a sporty person. I've never hiked before. I'll be too slow. This kind of thinking closes the door before you even give yourself a chance. But what if you chose a growth mindset instead? You might think, I've never tried hiking before, but maybe it could be a fun new experience. Why not give it a try? Who knows, I might enjoy it. That small shift in your internal conversation changes everything. Suddenly, instead of saying no, you say yes to life. You open a new door. You allow curiosity instead of fear to guide you. And that's how your world begins to expand. Even the smallest moments count. This idea doesn't only apply to big life choices. It can also change the smallest daily moments. Think about your alarm clock in the morning. When it rings, a very common thought is, ugh, another long and busy day. That thought alone can make your entire day feel heavy and stressful before it even begins. But if you pause and choose to think differently, you might say, today is a new day with new opportunities to learn and grow. Do you feel the difference? That one small change instantly shifts your energy. Your brain becomes more alert, more optimistic, and more focused. The truth about thinking differently. Now, I want to make something very clear. Thinking differently does not mean you pretend problems don't exist. It does not mean you fake happiness or ignore difficulties. Life is real, and challenges are real. Thinking differently means you choose a more useful and empowering way to look at reality. It means you take control of your thoughts instead of letting your old, unhelpful habits control you. And here is the most wonderful news of all. Anyone can learn to do this. Even if you have been thinking in the same way for many years, you can still change. Your brain is flexible. Change may happen slowly, but it happens. Just like learning English, training your brain is a skill. And just like any skill, it gets easier the more you practice. Every time you choose a better thought, you are training your brain. Every time you ask yourself a new question, you are training your brain. Every time you look at a challenge from a fresh angle, you are training your brain. Each choice makes you stronger. Each choice builds a better version of yourself. A final reminder. Now you understand something very important. Thinking differently is not only about changing what you think. It is also about choosing how you think. It's about believing deep down that you can grow, that you can learn, and that you can always become more than you are today. Step 1. Understanding mental habits. And this, my friend, is the very first and most important step toward creating a life you truly love, understanding how your brain works. So let's ask a question. Why does our brain tend to think the same way over and over again? The answer is fascinating. Our brain is the most incredible tool we have. It is always learning, always storing memories, always adapting to the world around us. But there is one feature of the brain that many people don't fully understand. The brain loves habits. It is constantly searching for comfort and efficiency. It wants to save time and energy. So it creates patterns and it repeats them again and again. That's why, over time, we often think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and react in the same predictable ways, even when those patterns are no longer helpful to us. This is where the idea of mental habits becomes so important. What are mental habits? We all know physical habits. For example, automatically reaching for our phone the moment we wake up, brushing our teeth in the exact same way every single night, taking the same route to work without even thinking about it. But here's the surprising truth. We also have mental habits. These are thought patterns that we have repeated so many times. They become automatic. They pop into our minds without effort, almost like a reflex. For example, imagine someone who has the automatic thought, "I'm not smart enough." Every time they face a difficult task at school or at work, that same thought appears. Now, where did this thought come from? Most likely, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. Maybe it started with a small experience in childhood, like getting a bad grade on a test, or hearing a teacher say something critical. But the more this person repeated the thought, "I'm not smart enough," the stronger it became. Over months, over years, that thought transformed into a deep mental habit. How the brain learns habits. The brain learns through repetition. When you think a thought or do an action for the first time, your brain creates a very faint connection like a thin string. If you repeat it, the string becomes a rope. If you repeat it hundreds or even thousands of times, the brain says, "This must be important," and builds a strong, wide pathway. It's like walking through a tall field of grass. The first time you step through, the grass pushes back. It's hard, but if you walk the same path again and again, soon a clear dirt trail forms. It becomes the easiest route to take. Your thoughts work in the exact same way. The more you travel a certain thought, the easier it is for your brain to go there. This is why certain thoughts, like self-doubt, worry, or fear, can feel so automatic. They've been repeated for so long, the path is wide and smooth. Why the brain prefers old paths? This doesn't happen because we are weak or incapable of change. It happens because the brain is trying to be efficient. It thinks it's helping us by saving mental energy. Its logic is simple. Why create a new thought or a new solution when we already have one that we've used before? Even if the old solution is negative, like anxiety, self-criticism, or self-doubt, the brain still prefers it.
Why?
Because it's familiar. The brain chooses the well-worn road, even if it leads us somewhere we don't want to go. A real-life example, public speaking. Think about someone who is afraid of public speaking. Their brain has built a strong habit. Speaking in front of people equals fear. So what happens? Long before they even step on stage, their brain is already reacting. Their heart races. Their palms get sweaty. Their stomach feels tight. But here's the important part. This is not happening because they are a bad speaker. It's happening because their brain is simply following its old, automatic path of fear. The same process in our lives. This same process happens to all of us in many areas of life. In our confidence during social situations. In how we approach learning new skills. In the patterns we repeat in relationships. Again and again, our brains return to the old, familiar thoughts. Not because those thoughts are true, but because they are practiced. Breaking old paths, building new ones. Our thoughts often follow the same old, deeply carved routes because the brain finds it easier to repeat a habit than to build a new one. That's simply how it works, efficiency. But here is the most hopeful and empowering truth. Once we realize these are just mental habits, we can begin the process of changing them. The same way we learned them, we can unlearn them. And just as we built old habits, we can build new ones, habits that are stronger, more supportive, and more positive. Of course, this doesn't happen overnight. Real change takes awareness, patience, and daily practice. But it is absolutely possible for every single person, including you. The very first step is awareness. Simply notice. Become an observer of your own mind. Ask yourself, what thoughts come back again and again in my daily life? Are these thoughts helping me grow, encouraging me, and moving me forward? Or are they holding me back, keeping me small and stuck? When you begin to recognize your automatic thought patterns, you gain something powerful, the ability to pause. You can interrupt the old pattern and choose a new thought instead. This is where real transformation begins. This is how you start to train your brain to think in new, better, and more empowering ways. In short, your brain repeats the same thoughts because it loves habits. It's a master of efficiency. But sometimes that efficiency comes at a cost. It can keep you trapped in patterns that limit your growth, your happiness, and your full potential. The moment you recognize these patterns for what they are, just old habits, you take the first step toward true mental freedom. And remember, you don't have to change everything all at once. A small, intentional shift in your thinking today can create massive positive changes in your life over time. Just begin by choosing to walk one new mental path. The incredible truth about your brain. Now that you understand what it means to think differently, let's talk about something truly exciting, a scientific fact that many people still don't know about. Here it is, your brain can change. Yes, you heard me correctly. Your brain is not a fixed, unchangeable object. It is not permanently stuck in its old ways. It has the ability to grow, to rewire itself, and to change at any age. Scientists have a name for this amazing ability: neuroplasticity. Don't let that big word scare you. Let's break it down. Neuro refers to the neurons, the tiny nerve cells in your brain. Plasticity means flexibility, or the ability to be shaped. So neuroplasticity simply means this: your brain's structure and function can change based on your experiences, your actions, and your thoughts. Your brain is like a muscle. Think of your brain like a muscle. When you go to the gym and consistently lift weights, your muscles grow stronger. If you stop exercising, your muscles weaken. It's the same with your brain. When you practice new ways of thinking, when you learn new skills, when you step outside your comfort zone, you are literally building a stronger brain. You create new neural connections, and your brain becomes faster, more resilient, and more positive. But if you always think the same thoughts, repeat the same routines, and stay in your comfort zone, your brain stays the same. It doesn't grow. A simple image. Here's another picture to help you understand. Imagine your thoughts are like streams of water flowing down a mountainside. The water always chooses the easiest, most familiar path, the channels that are already deep and clear. Those are your old thought habits. But here's the good news. With effort and repetition, you can guide the water into a new channel. At first, it's hard. The ground resists. But over time, as more water flows, the new channel deepens. It becomes easier. Eventually, the water prefers this new path. That is how you reshape your brain. That is how neuroplasticity works. The river of your thoughts. Every time you think a particular thought, imagine a little drop of water flowing down a path on a mountain. If you think the same thought again and again, those drops of water join together into a stream. Keep repeating the thought, and the stream becomes a strong river. Over many years, that river carves a deep canyon into the mountain. Soon, the water doesn't even have to think about where to go. It flows down that canyon automatically. This is how your brain works. The thoughts you repeat create strong, automatic pathways. But here's the exciting part. What if you decide to redirect the water? What if you block the old canyon with a dam and start sending water down a brand new path? At first, it's difficult. The ground is uneven. The new stream is small and weak. But if you keep sending more and more water down that path, it grows deeper, stronger, and clearer. Meanwhile, the old canyon starts to dry up. Grass and plants begin to cover it. Eventually, the new path becomes the natural way for the water to flow. This is exactly how neuroplasticity works in your brain. What this means for you. So, what does this incredible science mean for your life right now? It means you have the power to build better thoughts. You can literally rewire your brain by consciously choosing supportive, helpful thoughts every single day. Let's take a simple example with English learning. If your automatic thought is, "I'll never be able to speak English fluently," and you repeat that every day, your brain digs a deep canyon for it. Over time, that thought feels like the truth. Your brain accepts it as a fact, even though it's just a repeated belief. But if you start to redirect the water, if you begin saying to yourself, "I am learning to speak English more clearly every day," again and again, your brain starts carving a new canyon. At first, it may feel strange or even fake, but the more you practice, the stronger that new path becomes. One day, it feels natural. One day, you truly believe it. And when you believe something is possible, your actions change. You practice more often. You take more risks. You speak up in conversations. And because you act differently, your results change. That is the power of thinking differently. Your brain listens and learns. Your brain is always paying attention. It listens to your thoughts. It observes your actions. It remembers what you do repeatedly. And then it reorganizes itself to make those things easier for you in the future. That's why your habits are so powerful. That's why your thoughts are so powerful. Every thought is like exercise for your brain. You are literally training it, just as you would train your body. And here's the best part. You don't need to be a scientist to use this ability. You don't need to know all the complicated details. You just need to remember one simple truth. Your brain is always learning. Every experience builds your brain. Every time you try something new, your brain grows. Every time you practice a skill, your brain grows. Every time you replace an old negative thought with a new empowering one, your brain grows. Even right now, as you listen to this podcast in English, focusing and understanding, your brain is physically changing. You are strengthening your language pathways. You are literally growing in this very moment. That's not just inspiring, that's science. And it's absolutely amazing. You are never too old to change. Many people fall into the trap of thinking, "I'm too old to change. My brain doesn't work that way anymore." But modern science proves this is simply not true. People in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s and 80s can still learn new languages, change lifelong habits, and build entirely new thought patterns. The human brain is remarkably flexible, incredibly intelligent, and always ready to grow if you give it the right instructions. So, no matter where you are in your journey, no matter your age, no matter your past, remember this. Your brain is ready to change when you are. You can build better thoughts. Let's take one more example together. Imagine you want to become a more confident person. Every single day, you wake up and look in the mirror, and you say to yourself, I am confident and capable. I believe in my ability to handle challenges. At first, these words may feel strange. They may even feel false. Your brain might say, that's not true. I don't feel confident. But here is the magic. The more you repeat these sentences, the more your brain begins to accept them. Day by day, little by little, your brain says, oh, maybe this is real. Maybe this is true. And over time, that new thought becomes your reality. Now, let's look at the opposite example. What if every day you say things like, I'm so shy. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. If you feed your brain those sentences again and again, it will believe them. It will build strong pathways for those thoughts. And soon, they will feel like the truth. Do you see the difference? Your thoughts are not just words. They are instructions for your brain. They literally shape your reality. So the question is, which thoughts will you choose? The ones that keep you small and stuck? Or the ones that help you grow into the person you want to be? Of course, this change does not happen in one day. It takes time. It takes consistency. Think of it like building muscle at the gym. If you lift weights only once, nothing much changes. But if you train every day, your body grows stronger. Your brain is exactly the same. Every time you practice a new thought, you make your brain stronger, smarter, and more supportive of your goals. One small thought practiced every day. One small new action taken every week. That is how real, lasting change happens. So, remember this truth deep in your heart. Your brain is not a rock. It is not stuck. It is not too old. Your brain is alive. It is flexible. It is ready to change for the better. But it needs clear instructions. And those instructions come from your thoughts, your words, and your actions. You are not a prisoner of your past thinking. You are the architect of your new thinking. Say this sentence with me. I can build better thoughts. Yes, you can. And in fact, you are already doing it right now. By listening, by learning, and by practicing, you are training your brain to think differently. Isn't that an incredible and empowering idea? Now, you might ask a very logical question. If it is possible to train the brain to think differently, then why don't more people actually do it? That is a fantastic question. The truth is, most people do not change their thinking. Not because they can't, but because there are powerful habits, old beliefs, and deep fears that hold them back. The fear of failure. One of the biggest obstacles is the fear of failure. Nobody likes to fail. Failure can feel embarrassing. It can feel disappointing. Sometimes it even feels painful. Because of this, many people are scared to try new things. They think thoughts filled with fear. What if I try and fail? What if other people laugh at me? What if I look stupid? What if I discover I'm not good enough? These questions are so heavy, so frightening, that people often stop before they even begin. Instead of trying something new, they stay in the same safe place. It feels comfortable, but it also keeps them stuck. But here is the deeper truth about failure. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your teacher. Failure is one of the most important parts of learning and growing. When you fail, your brain receives valuable information. Failure says, "This way didn't work. Try another way." Every failure is a lesson. Every failure is a step forward. Every failure gives your brain a chance to grow stronger and wiser. So instead of running away from failure, we can welcome it. We can say, "Thank you, failure. You are helping me learn." Remember this. Failure does not mean you are not good enough. Failure means you are in the process of becoming good enough. And that is a very big difference. Why people don't think differently and how you can. Thinking differently means you stop looking at failure as the end of the road. Instead, you see failure as a necessary stepping stone, something you must walk on to reach success. Failure is not a wall. Failure is a step. And every step, even the painful ones, can move you forward. But failure is not the only reason people stop themselves from thinking in new ways. There is another powerful reason: negative voices. Imagine this. You feel excited. You want to try something bold and new. Maybe you dream of starting your own small business, or moving to a new city, or finally dedicating yourself to becoming fluent in English. Your heart feels alive. You're ready to take action. And then someone close to you speaks. It could be a friend, a family member, or even a coworker. They say things like, "You can't do that. It's too risky. That's way too hard for you. Don't waste your time and money on that dream." Their words feel heavy. They plant seeds of doubt in your mind. And slowly, those seeds start to grow. You catch yourself thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do it. And just like that, your excitement fades. You stop yourself before you even begin. But here is what you must always remember. Just because someone says something does not make it true for you. Often, people speak from their own fears, from their own limits, from their own comfort zones. Their no is not your no. Their doubts do not have to be your doubts. Thinking differently means learning to turn down the volume of those negative voices. And at the same time, learning to turn up the volume of your own positive inner voice. It means protecting your dreams, like a gardener protects a young plant from weeds. You don't let other people's fears choke your growth. You choose to believe in your possibilities instead. Now, let's talk about the third reason people don't change their thinking: the comfort zone. Your comfort zone is like a soft, safe space. It's familiar. It feels easy. You do the same things every day. You talk to the same people. You think the same thoughts. And in this zone, you feel no risk, no fear, no challenge. It feels safe, but it also keeps you small. Maybe you stay in a steady job you don't love.
Why?
Because starting something new feels too scary. Maybe you avoid new experiences.
Why?
Because you don't want to feel uncomfortable. Here's the truth. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. Your skills don't grow. Your confidence doesn't grow. Your life doesn't expand. If you always stay comfortable, you never discover how much you are truly capable of. Thinking differently always requires courage. It means choosing to take a step into the unknown. It means walking toward the challenge instead of away from it. Yes, it will probably feel uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is not danger. It is growth. It is your brain building new pathways, new strengths, new possibilities. So when you feel discomfort, don't run. Recognize it. Smile at it. And remember, this is the feeling of me becoming better. Let's pause for a moment and be very honest. These 3 habits: fear of failure, listening to negative people, staying in the comfort zone, are extremely common. Almost every person on this planet has experienced them. Even the most successful people you admire have felt fear. They have heard negative voices. They have struggled with comfort zones. So if you feel these things, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It simply means you are human. But here is the most important part. These habits are not permanent. You have the power to change them. You can train your brain to respond differently. Instead of automatically thinking, What if I fail? You can practice thinking, but what if I succeed? What could be possible? Instead of letting negative voices stop you, you can let your own positive voice guide you. Instead of staying stuck in the comfort zone, you can take one small brave step into growth. And each time you do this, you build a stronger, freer, and more powerful version of yourself. Practical steps to train your brain. Instead of simply accepting the thought, I'm not good at this, you can gently replace it with, I am in the process of learning this, and that's okay. This small shift makes a huge difference. It takes you from a place of weakness to a place of growth. It reminds you that learning is a journey, not a destination. And instead of giving your energy to people who bring you down, you can make a conscious choice to spend more time with people who lift you up, people who believe in growth, people who inspire you, and people who remind you of what is possible. When you change your thoughts and when you choose better company, your whole world begins to change. But let's be realistic. This process takes time. You can't expect to undo decades of old thinking in a single night. And that's okay. The key is to start small. The next time you notice a negative or limiting thought pop into your mind, just pause. Don't judge it. Don't fight it. Just notice it. And then ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Is this thought helping me? Or is it hurting me? If the thought is hurting you, if it's making you weaker, smaller, or more afraid, then it's time to gently replace it with something better. For example, instead of, I can't do this, you say, I am learning to do this step by step. Instead of, I'm afraid, so I won't try, you say, it's okay to feel afraid, but fear doesn't get to make all my decisions. And when you feel the heavy pull of your comfort zone, that safe place where nothing changes, remind yourself of this truth. I was not made to stay the same forever. I was made to grow, to learn, and to evolve. So now you know why most people don't think differently. They are trapped in fear, surrounded by negativity, or stuck in comfort. But you are not most people. You are here. You are listening. You are learning. And you are choosing to grow. That is proof that you are already on the path of thinking differently. Now, let's move into the most exciting part, how to actually train your brain to think in new ways. Here's the wonderful news. Training your brain doesn't require expensive equipment, big money, or genius-level intelligence. You don't need to be perfect. You don't even need to be ready. All you need is a willingness to practice small, daily actions. These small actions help your brain form new, stronger, and better thinking habits. So let me share with you some very simple but powerful tips that anyone can do. And you can start using them today. Tip 1. Ask better questions. Your brain is like a search engine. Whatever question you type in, it will give you answers. If you ask yourself negative questions like, why does this always happen to me? Why is my life so difficult? Your brain will work hard to find evidence to prove those things true. It will keep showing you problems. But what if you asked better questions? Questions like, what can this situation teach me? How can I grow from this challenge? What is one small step I can take right now to make things better? Suddenly, your brain begins searching for solutions, opportunities, and lessons. Here's an example. Imagine you get a poor score on an English quiz. If you ask, why am I so bad at English? Your brain will give you answers like, because you're not talented, or because you're not smart enough. That question leads nowhere. But if you ask, which specific areas did I struggle with, and how can I improve them next time? Your brain shifts focus. Now it looks for progress instead of problems. It guides you to action instead of self-pity. This small change in questioning moves you from being a victim to being a student of life. And students always grow. Tip 2. Write down your thoughts. Another powerful tool is writing. There is something almost magical about taking the confusing, swirling thoughts from inside your head and putting them onto paper. When you write them down, they become clearer. They feel smaller, less intimidating, and more manageable. Writing gives you distance. You can look at your thoughts instead of drowning in them. You can analyze them. You can ask, is this thought true? Is this thought useful? Is there a better thought I could choose? Many successful people keep journals for this exact reason. They don't just let their thoughts control them. They capture them, study them, and then choose better ones. Even just 5 minutes of writing every day can train your brain to slow down, reflect, and build healthier thought patterns. Practical tips to train your brain, expanded version. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed, stressed, or even stuck simply because our thoughts are all tangled up inside our minds. It's like having too many tabs open on a computer. Everything slows down and nothing feels clear. That's why the second tip is so powerful. Write down your thoughts. Writing is like taking those messy thoughts and gently untangling them. It helps you to slow down, to breathe, and to see your ideas with fresh eyes. You don't need a fancy journal. You can use a small notebook, a scrap of paper, or even a notes app on your phone. Here's a simple practice. Every single day, write down just one good thought. It could be a compliment someone gave you, a small success you had, or something you are grateful for. For example, today I had the courage to ask a question in English. I am grateful for the sunny weather today. I made progress on something that used to feel hard. These small, positive entries may look simple, but they are very powerful. They train your brain to actively look for the good in your life. Over time, your focus shifts from your imperfections and mistakes to your progress and possibilities. The third tip is something you can do instantly. Change one word. Yes, sometimes a single word is enough to transform your thinking and even your emotional state. For example, let's say your automatic thought is, I can't do this. This is a very final, closed statement. It shuts down all possibility. Now, try changing just one word. I can't do this yet. That tiny word, yet completely changes the meaning. It tells your brain that this is temporary. It tells you that with time, effort, and practice, you'll get there. Or you can make it even more powerful by changing the phrase entirely. I can try to do this. The word try is full of hope and action. It opens the door for you to take a step forward. Here's another example. Instead of saying, this is a huge problem, say, this is an interesting challenge. Do you see the difference? A problem feels heavy and negative. A challenge feels like an opportunity to test your strength and grow. These subtle word swaps may seem small, but they create brand new neural pathways in your brain. With practice, your brain begins to feel stronger, more capable, and less defeated. The fourth tip is to cultivate curiosity. Curiosity is one of the most powerful engines for growth. It is the natural desire to learn, to understand, and to explore. It's that little voice inside you that asks, how does that work? What could I learn from this? What new thing can I try today? Curiosity turns fear into excitement. Instead of being scared of new experiences, curiosity helps you feel engaged and ready to explore. For example, imagine a friend invites you to try a type of food you've never had before. Without curiosity, you might say, no, I probably won't like it. But with curiosity, you say, I've never tried that before. I wonder what it tastes like. Curiosity trains your brain to see new experiences not as threats, but as opportunities for discovery. It keeps your mind flexible, open, and young, no matter how old you are. The fifth and final tip for today is to surround yourself with positive input. Your environment has a massive effect on your thinking. Everything you consume, the books you read, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, the conversations you have, and especially the people you spend time with, all of it is shaping your thoughts. If you are constantly consuming negative news, gossip, or complaints, your brain will naturally start to copy that negativity. But if you choose to fill your mind with positive, uplifting input, your brain will start to copy that instead. You can do this by listening to motivational podcasts like this one, reading books that inspire you, watching videos that teach you something useful, spending more time with people who support your growth instead of tearing it down. For example, even listening to just 10 minutes of a positive English podcast every day does more than improve your language skills. It also feeds your brain with hope, encouragement, and better ideas. So remember, training your brain doesn't happen in one big leap. It happens in small, simple, daily steps. Write down your thoughts. Change one word. Cultivate curiosity. Surround yourself with positive input. Each of these tips is like a small drop of water carving a new path in your brain. Over time, those small drops become a river, and that river creates a brand new way of thinking. Daily habits to train your brain. These tips might seem small or simple at first, but don't underestimate them. When you practice them consistently, every single day, they are incredibly powerful. Remember this, your brain is always listening. It listens to the questions you ask yourself, the words you use, the thoughts you repeat, and the environment you place yourself in. If you give your brain positive, encouraging, and empowering input, it will give you better output in the form of better feelings, better actions, and a better life. And the best part? It all starts with one small change. One better question, one new word, one curious choice, one positive voice. Over time, your brain will follow your lead. You will begin to think differently, act differently, and live differently. A new, wonderful way of living becomes possible, one small step at a time. Knowing what to do is important, but it is not enough. You must put it into practice. Just like learning to play the piano, learning a sport, or becoming good at English, changing the way you think takes daily, consistent effort. It is not a one-time activity. It is a daily habit. Even a small effort matters. Each time you practice a positive thought, each time you try a better question, each time you choose curiosity over fear, your brain strengthens that pathway. Let me say that again, because it is so important. Practice makes progress, not perfect. Perfection is not the goal. The goal is progress. When you commit to small, daily brain habits, your thoughts slowly but surely grow stronger, more positive, and more supportive of the life you want to live. So, what are some easy daily actions that you can take to train your brain? Let's go through them. These are small habits, but over time, they create big change. Habit 1. Learn one new thing each day. Even if you are busy, tired, or unmotivated, make a tiny effort to learn something new every day. It can be very small, such as a new English word, a new fact about history, a new perspective on a problem, or a new idea from a book, podcast, or conversation. Learning one new thing each day keeps your brain active and engaged. It makes your brain curious, flexible, and ready to see the world in fresh, exciting ways. Try this simple reflection each evening. What is one new thing I learned today? This small habit trains your brain to grow every day, even if your day was busy or difficult. Habit 2. Think of one positive thing before sleep. At the end of the day, when you are lying in bed, pause for a moment. Recall one good thing that happened during the day. It doesn't have to be a big event. It can be very small, such as a kind word from a friend, the taste of your morning coffee, a moment when you felt proud of yourself, or listening to this podcast and feeling inspired. Even 30 seconds of focusing on something positive trains your brain to notice good things more often. Over time, your brain begins to naturally look for the positive in everyday life. Habit 3. Replace one limiting thought each day. When you notice a thought like, I can't do this, stop and change it.
Try.
I can't do this yet. That tiny word yet opens the door to growth. Or, I can try to do this. Try is full of hope and action. Even small word changes can reshape your emotional state, build new neural pathways in your brain, and make you feel stronger, more capable, and more motivated. Habit 4. Ask one better question each day. Your brain will always search for answers to the questions you ask. Instead of asking, why is my life so hard? Why do I always fail? Ask questions like, what can I learn from this challenge? What is one small step I can take today to improve? How can I make this situation better? Better questions guide your brain toward solutions, opportunities, and growth. They change your focus from problems to progress. Habit 5. Surround yourself with positive input. Your environment matters. The books you read, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, and the people you spend time with all influence your thoughts. If you fill your brain with negative news, gossip, or complaints, your thoughts will naturally become negative. But if you intentionally choose motivational podcasts, inspiring books, and supportive, positive people, your brain will absorb that positivity. You will feel more motivated, hopeful, and confident in your actions. Even just 10 minutes a day of positive input can start changing the way your brain thinks. These small habits, learning one new thing, thinking of a positive before sleep, changing one thought, asking one better question, and surrounding yourself with positive input, may feel tiny, but they are powerful. And when you practice them every day, your brain changes. Your thoughts change. And slowly, your life changes. Daily habits that transform your brain. Even the smallest positive moments in your day count. When you notice them consistently, your brain begins to look for the good, not just for problems or stress. For example, when you go to sleep with a good thought in your mind, you are more likely to wake up with better energy, focus, and a positive attitude. Over time, this simple habit can create more peace, gratitude, and confidence in your life. Another powerful daily habit is to adopt this rule. One mistake equals one learning opportunity. Many of us have been conditioned to feel bad when we make mistakes. We feel embarrassed, frustrated, or even angry with ourselves. But mistakes are normal. They are natural and necessary. In fact, mistakes are incredible teachers. Every single mistake contains a lesson. For example, imagine you tried to explain something in English today, but the other person didn't understand. Instead of thinking, my English is terrible, you could say, great. This shows me I need to work on my clarity or find a simpler way to explain it. Now I know what to practice. When you start to see mistakes as lessons, your brain becomes stronger, braver, and more willing to try new things. Mistakes stop being something to fear, and instead, they become stepping stones to growth. Here is a very simple but powerful daily habit. Repeat a positive affirmation. An affirmation is a short, positive statement you say to yourself to build confidence and belief in your abilities. It should be short, easy to remember, and in the present tense. You can say it in the morning when you wake up or at night before you sleep. For example, I am capable of learning. I am willing to grow. I can think in new ways. Say it slowly. Say it with feeling. Even if you don't fully believe it at first, say it anyway.
Why?
Because when you repeat something over and over, your brain begins to accept it as true. Your brain thinks, this is important. I need to pay attention. And slowly, your thinking begins to shift. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain literally rewires itself through practice. You can even write your affirmation on a sticky note and put it on your mirror or computer screen. Every time you see it, repeat it. Over time, your brain will naturally think in more positive, confident ways. These habits may seem almost too simple. Learning one new thing each day, focusing on one good thought, viewing mistakes as lessons, repeating a positive affirmation. But when you practice them consistently, day after day, they become part of how your brain automatically works. Slowly, steadily, strongly, your thinking changes. Your actions change. Your life changes. So, if you want to think differently, don't wait for a big life-changing moment. Don't wait for the perfect time.
Start today.
Start small. Practice with patience. Love yourself through the process, and trust in the journey. Every small step matters. Every thought matters. And over time, those small daily habits can create a life you truly love, full of growth, confidence, and joy. Your brain will follow your lead. It will grow. It will change. And it will help you create a better, happier life. One thought, one small step, and one day at a time can completely transform your life. To show you how, let me tell you the story of a woman named Clara. Clara was 42 years old. She had been working as an accountant at the same firm for almost 20 years. Her job was stable. It paid the bills. She was good at it. From the outside, her life looked successful. But inside, Clara felt a quiet emptiness. Every morning, she would sit in her car in the office parking lot, and a heavy feeling would settle in her chest. A thought would drift into her mind, the same thought almost every day. Is this it? Is this all my life is going to be? Clara had a secret dream she had hidden since she was a little girl. She loved baking, the smell of fresh bread, the art of decorating cakes. Baking made her feel alive and creative in a way nothing else did. She dreamed of one day opening a small, cozy bakery. But every time the dream appeared, a flood of louder, automatic thoughts would rush in to crush it. These were her fixed mindset thoughts. You're 42. It's too late to start a new career. You're an accountant, not a business owner. You don't know anything about running a business. What if you fail? You'll lose your savings and look foolish. The fear of failure was the strongest. It built a wall around her dream. And for years, Clara did nothing. The bakery remained a fantasy, something to daydream about during long, boring meetings. Her accounting job was safe. The dream was dangerous. The change for Clara began on a Tuesday. It was a stressful day at work, long hours, difficult clients. She came home exhausted and scrolled through social media. There, she saw a post from an old college classmate who had just opened a small flower shop. Her friend looked radiant and happy, surrounded by beautiful bouquets. Clara felt a sharp pang of envy, quickly followed by a new question, a question she had never really allowed herself to ask. Why not me? That night, she couldn't sleep. The question echoed in her mind. It was the first crack in her wall of fear and fixed mindset. The next day, feeling a little brave, she searched online for local baking classes. Her heart pounded as she scrolled. Old thoughts screamed at her. This is a waste of time. You're too old. You'll be the oldest person in the class. But the image of her happy friend gave her a tiny spark of courage. She found a 6-week weekend course for beginners. With her hand trembling slightly, she clicked the enroll button. The first day of class was terrifying. Clara was one of the oldest students there. She felt awkward and clumsy. Her first attempt at making sourdough bread was a disaster, a hard, flat disc. Her old inner voice screamed,
See?
I told you you're no good at this. You should quit. In the past, Clara would have listened. She would have gone home and never returned. But this time, she remembered the idea of a growth mindset, that mistakes are lessons, not failures. She took a deep breath and tried again. Each mistake was not the end, but a step forward. She learned.
She practiced.
Slowly, the fear of failure started to fade. She began to feel a little bit of excitement, a little bit of pride. Over the weeks, Clara improved. Her breads rose, her cakes looked beautiful, and her confidence grew. Most importantly, she realized something amazing. She could change. She could learn. She could follow her dreams, even at 42. And her brain was building new pathways with every small step, every small success, every lesson from a mistake. Clara looked at her failed bread. Instead of feeling shame, she decided to be curious. She asked the instructor, "What did I do wrong here? Can you show me?" The instructor was kind and explained that she hadn't let the dough rise long enough. It was a simple mistake, a lesson, not proof that she was a failure. It was just information for next time. This small shift in thinking was powerful. Clara began practicing this new mindset. She bought a special notebook, her bakery dream journal. Every night, instead of dwelling on fear, she wrote down one small thing she had learned that day. Lesson 1. Sourdough needs patience. Lesson 2. Always measure your flour carefully. She also began changing her words. The thought, "I can't start a business," felt too big and scary, so she broke it into smaller steps. She told herself, "I can learn about one aspect of business this week." She read articles online, how to write a business plan, how to find suppliers, how to price her products. The huge, terrifying mountain of starting a business became a series of small, manageable hills. Of course, there were setbacks. She tried a complex cake recipe for a family gathering, and it completely fell apart. Her family was supportive, but Clara felt humiliated. The old thought, "I'm a failure," came roaring back. She cried that night. But the next morning, she opened her journal and reminded herself, "Practice makes progress, not perfection." She told herself, "That was a difficult recipe. It was a challenge. I learned that I need more practice with that technique." She was slowly training her brain to see challenges not as stop signs, but as guideposts. After the baking course ended, Clara didn't stop. She baked every weekend, experimenting and learning. Her kitchen smelled of cinnamon, vanilla, and fresh bread. She began giving her creations to friends and neighbors. The feedback was amazing. "Clara, this is the best carrot cake I've ever had. You should sell these." Each piece of positive feedback watered the seed of her new belief. Maybe, just maybe, she could do this. She took another small step. She learned that her town had a farmer's market every Sunday. The thought of selling her baked goods to strangers was terrifying. But she asked herself a better question. What's the worst that could happen? I'll bring some baked goods home. And what's the best that could happen? I could sell something. The first Sunday at the market, she sold out in just 2 hours. The joy of someone paying for something she had made with her own hands was indescribable. Clara's story shows us something incredible. Small steps, daily practice, and a change in thinking can transform your life. Every mistake, every challenge, every small success is part of building a stronger, more confident mind. Clara felt more fulfilled than she ever had at her accounting job. Selling her baked goods, creating something with her own hands, and seeing people enjoy it brought her joy in a way no paycheck ever could. But Clara didn't quit her job and open a huge bakery right away. Her change was gradual, steady, and real. She continued working full-time at her accounting job, but now it didn't feel like a life sentence. Instead, it felt like a stepping stone, a way to support her dream while she built it slowly. Every weekend, she went to the market to sell her baked goods. She also enrolled in an online business course to learn more about running her bakery. Step by step, she was building her dream. One cake, one customer, one small new thought at a time. The woman who once sat in her car feeling empty and stuck in routine was now waking up at 5 a.m. on Sundays, excited and energized. Her hands were often covered in a light dusting of flour, her heart full of satisfaction. Clara hadn't changed who she was. She was still the same person, but she had profoundly changed the way she thought, and that had changed everything. Now let's pause for a moment and reflect on what we've learned in this episode. We talked about something incredibly powerful, your brain. And the main idea, the big takeaway I want you to remember is this: your brain is not fixed. It can grow, it can improve, and it can learn entirely new ways of thinking. You are not stuck with the thoughts, habits, or ways of thinking you have today. You have the power to change them. Step by step, thought by thought, you can change your beliefs, your habits, and ultimately your life. The secret behind this amazing power is called neuroplasticity. Don't worry about the big word. It's simple. It means that your brain can build new pathways, form new habits, and change its structure when you practice new thoughts regularly. Think of your brain like a muscle. When you lift weights, your muscles grow stronger. When you train your brain with positive, empowering, and helpful thoughts, it becomes stronger in the same way. Over time, new habits form, your confidence grows, and your life begins to change, sometimes in ways you never thought possible. Clara's story is proof of this. She didn't need to make huge changes overnight. She started small, practicing better thoughts, learning new skills, and taking tiny actions each day. And little by little, those steps created a life she truly loved. This is the power that each of us has. Your brain is capable of change, and the small, consistent steps you take today can shape the person you become tomorrow. Throughout our time together, we have explored something very important. Most of us get stuck repeating the same thoughts over and over again, almost without realizing it. We have mental habits, patterns of thinking that feel automatic. We often get caught in fear of failure. We stick to what feels familiar and safe, and sometimes we listen too much to the negative voices around us. These habits can stop us from growing, learning, and reaching our true potential. But here's the good news. The moment we notice these patterns, we gain power. We gain the ability to start changing them. We can ask better questions, ones that help us find solutions and opportunities instead of problems. We can write down our thoughts, which helps us see them more clearly and understand them better. We can even change just one word in our self-talk. For example, instead of saying, "I can't do this," we can say, "I can try." That one small word opens a door. These small changes may seem tiny or unimportant, but when you repeat them every day, they start to physically change your brain. Your brain begins to build new pathways, stronger and more positive ones. Step by step, thought by thought, your mind becomes more capable, more confident, and more resilient. So, here's a question for you to reflect on. What is one specific thought you want to begin changing today? Maybe it's, "I'm not smart enough to learn English," or "I always fail when I try new things." Can you take that thought right now and turn it into something a little bit better, a little more hopeful? For example, you could say, "I am still learning and I am capable of improving," or "This is a challenge, but I can get better with practice." Even one small change like this can be the start of a huge shift in your mindset. And here's another question. How will you train your brain tomorrow? Will you spend 5 minutes learning something new? Will you speak a positive thought out loud to yourself in the mirror? Will you look at a mistake as a lesson instead of a failure? These are not questions for today only. You can return to them again and again. Real growth comes from becoming interested in your own thinking, from observing your thoughts, and from practicing better habits every day. I also encourage you to listen to this episode again. Every time you do, your brain will pick up something new. Your English listening skills will improve, your vocabulary will grow, and the ideas we talked about will sink in deeper. Repetition is one of the most powerful tools for learning and personal growth. If this episode inspired you or gave you something helpful to think about, share it with a friend or family member. You never know who might need to hear this message today. Your simple act of sharing could help someone start their own journey of change. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the Super English Talks so you don't miss the next episode. Here, we are building a supportive community, a space where you can grow into the best version of yourself, step by step, word by word, in English and in life. Before we finish, hold this thought in your mind. Every single day is a brand new chance to think differently and grow. You already have all the power you need inside of you. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment or for someone else's permission. You can begin right now, this very moment. One new idea, one new word, one new thought. That is all it takes to start changing your life for the better. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Keep going, keep learning, keep growing, and remember this, you're doing far better than you think. Every small step you take is moving you closer to the life you want.